The morning sun filtered through the gleaming glass facade of First National Bank in downtown Los Angeles, casting prismatic patterns across the polished marble floor. Outside, a row of luxury vehicles, Bentleys, Porsches, and Maseratis, lined the private banking entrance, their presence announcing the caliber of clientele the institution catered to. Yet amidst this display of opulence, a weathered Triumph motorcycle pulled up, its engine quieting to a gentle purr before shutting off completely. The rider dismounted with fluid grace, removing his helmet to reveal a face that had graced countless movie posters around the world, though you might not immediately recognize him now. With his beard slightly unkempt, hair tousled from the helmet, and dressed in a well-worn black t-shirt, faded jeans, and scuffed boots, Keanu Reeves looked more like a motorcycle mechanic than one of Hollywood's most beloved actors. As he tucked his helmet under his arm and made his way toward the bank's entrance, several passers-by did double takes, their expressions morphing from confusion to recognition. A few whispered and pointed, but most kept walking, respecting the privacy that even celebrities deserve in their daily routines. What happened next would leave everyone completely speechless. If you're enjoying this story, let us know where you're watching from in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe. We'll have another incredible celebrity encounter to share with you tomorrow. A morning at First National. Inside First National, the usual Monday morning chaos reigned. The line for the tellers stretched nearly to the door, filled with impatient business people checking watches between scrolling through emails, retirees clutching deposit slips with meticulous precision, and young professionals who looked like they'd rather be anywhere else. The bank's interior was a testament to old money and traditional banking values. High ceilings, adorned with ornate moldings, mahogany desks where relationship managers catered to high-net-worth individuals, and a general atmosphere of hushed reverence for wealth. In this temple of financial prosperity, a man in a worn leather jacket and jeans seemed distinctly out of place. He stood in line like everyone else, occasionally checking his phone, but mostly just observing the room with calm attentiveness. There was something striking about his presence, a stillness that contrasted with the nervous energy of those around him. He wasn't wearing designer clothes or flashing expensive accessories. The only notable item he carried was a vintage leather messenger bag slung across his torso, its surface marked with the character that comes from years of use. A pair of reading glasses hung from the collar of his plain black t-shirt, and his boots, while clearly of good quality, showed signs of having walked many miles. Had anyone paid closer attention, they might have recognized the thoughtful eyes and distinctive features of one of Hollywood's most bankable stars. But in a city where appearance is often mistaken for substance, being understated was sometimes the best disguise. The bank teller. Behind the counter, 32-year-old Alex Mercer straightened his designer tie for the third time that morning. As the senior teller at First National's premier branch, he prided himself on his appearance. His suit was Italian, his watch Swiss, and his shoes had been handcrafted by a cobbler whose waiting list stretched 2 years. These details mattered to Alex. They were the carefully calculated signals of his ascent in the world of high finance. Alex had clawed his way up from a childhood in a forgettable suburb, fueled by a desperate determination to never be ordinary. He'd watched too many movies where respect came from power and power from money. Now, 7 years into his banking career, he'd cultivated a persona that commanded respect from those who valued such things. His specialty was identifying wealth at a glance, the subtle tells that separated old money from new, the genuine article from the pretender. It was a skill that served him well in the banking world, where client relationships were everything. What Alex couldn't recognize, however, was the kind of wealth that didn't announce itself, the quiet confidence of someone who had nothing to prove. As the line inched forward, Alex's gaze fell on the disheveled man in the worn jacket. A flash of disdain crossed his face. He'd seen this type before. People who wandered in from the street, hoping to cash a check with insufficient ID, or asking about accounts they couldn't possibly qualify for. "Jenkins," he murmured to his colleague at the neighboring window, "looks like you'll be handling another charity case today." He smirked, adjusting his cufflinks. sterling silver with his initials engraved in a flowing script. Little did Alex know that the universe was about to teach him a lesson in humility he would never forget. The first encounter. The line crawled forward with excruciating slowness. As customers were called to available tellers, Alex deliberately passed over the scruffy man in favor of more professionally dressed clients. It was a subtle slight, but one born of years of judging books by their covers. Eventually, as fate would have it, the man in the leather jacket ended up at Alex's window. Up close, there was something vaguely familiar about him. Something in the eyes, perhaps. But Alex couldn't place it and didn't try very hard to. "Good morning," the man said, his voice surprisingly gentle and resonant. "I need to access my safe deposit box, please." Alex didn't bother looking up from his computer screen. "Do you have your key and account information?" "I have my key," the man replied, placing a small metal key on the counter. "And my name is Keanu Reeves. The account should be under that name." Alex's fingers paused briefly over his keyboard at the mention of the name, but he didn't look up. Los Angeles was full of people claiming to be someone they weren't. He'd even dealt with 3 Brad Pitts and a Jennifer Aniston in the past month alone. "Of course, sir," Alex said with thinly veiled sarcasm. "And I'm Leonardo DiCaprio. May I see some identification, please?" The man showed no sign of offense. With the same tranquil expression, he reached into his pocket and produced a California driver's license along with a bank card. Alex took the ID, ready to call security if it was obviously fake. But as he examined the license, his smug expression faltered. The photo matched the man standing before him, and the name indeed read Keanu Charles Reeves. Still, Alex wasn't convinced. In a city of exceptional makeup artists and special effects wizards, a convincing ID wasn't impossible to fabricate. He typed the account number from the bank card into his system, expecting to find either a non-existent account or one with a modest balance at best. What appeared on his screen made his eyes widen involuntarily. "Is there a problem?" Keanu asked, noticing the change in Alex's demeanor. Alex cleared his throat, suddenly feeling the expensive collar of his shirt tightening around his neck. No problem at all, Mr. Reeves. I'll need to verify a few details before I can grant access to the safe deposit box. Standard procedure." "Of course," Keanu replied patiently. Alex proceeded to ask a series of verification questions, each answer confirming what he was finding increasingly difficult to deny. The modest man standing before him was indeed Keanu Reeves, star of The Matrix, John Wick, and countless other blockbusters. And more shockingly, the balance displayed across multiple accounts totaled well into 8 figures. "Everything appears to be in order, Mr. Reeves," Alex said, his tone markedly more respectful now. "If you'll follow me to the safe deposit area, I'd be happy to assist you personally." Keanu nodded, seemingly unaware of, or perhaps simply unbothered by, the dramatic shift in Alex's attitude. Escalating tensions in the safe deposit room, Alex's professional mask slipped further as he attempted to recover from his initial misjudgment. "You know, we don't often get celebrities of your caliber here," he said, his voice taking on an ingratiating quality that wasn't there before. "Though I suppose we should expect it, given your considerable holdings with us." Keanu merely nodded, focusing on retrieving an envelope from his safe deposit box. The contents seemed to be nothing more than some old photographs and what looked like handwritten letters. Certainly nothing as valuable as the jewelry or stock certificates Alex was accustomed to seeing customers store. Unable to help himself, Alex continued, "I have to say, Mr. Reeves, your choice of transportation is unexpected for someone of your means. The motorcycle outside, is that yours?" "Yes," Keanu replied simply. "Interesting choice. Most of our clients prefer vehicles that offer more protection for their investment." Keanu looked up from the letters in his hand, his expression thoughtful rather than offended. "The Triumph is reliable, gets me where I need to go." Alex laughed a little too loudly. "I suppose when you have millions in the bank, you can afford to be eccentric about these things." Something subtle shifted in Keanu's expression, not anger, but perhaps disappointment. "Is there a particular reason you're concerned with how I spend my money?" Flustered, Alex backpedaled. "Not at all, sir. I simply meant that most people in your position enjoy the finer things, the cars, the clothes." He gestured vaguely toward Keanu's worn jacket. And what position would that be? Keanu asked, his voice still calm, but carrying an undercurrent of genuine curiosity. Well, someone with your level of success, your wealth. Alex's words hung awkwardly in the air between them. Keanu carefully folded the letter he'd been reading and placed it back in the envelope. Success and wealth aren't necessarily the same thing, he said quietly. Alex's laugh was dismissive. Easy to say when you have both. For the first time, Keanu's expression hardened slightly. I've found that the things that matter most rarely have a price tag attached. The conversation was interrupted by another bank employee who needed access to the safe deposit area for another client. As they returned to the main floor, Alex struggled to reconcile the modest man before him with the staggering account balance he'd seen. The wisdom of wealth. When they returned to Alex's teller window, Keanu needed to make a significant transfer, a donation to a children's hospital foundation that required paperwork due to its size. As Alex processed the transaction, he couldn't help but notice the amount. $1 million. That's quite generous, Alex remarked, unable to imagine parting with such a sum regardless of how much money he had. Keanu shrugged slightly. They do important work. Still, Alex persisted, that kind of money could buy a house in the Hollywood Hills, or a couple of those Ferraris you don't seem interested in. The actor regarded him with a mixture of patience and perplexity. What would I do with another house or car I don't need? Alex laughed nervously. Enjoy them? Show them off? Isn't that the point of making it big? Keanu considered this for a moment. Is it? I've found that beyond a certain point, possessions become a burden rather than a pleasure. They demand attention, maintenance, security. They complicate rather than simplify. So why work so hard then? Why keep making movies, if not to build wealth? Alex couldn't wrap his mind around the concept. For the work itself, Keanu replied simply. For the stories worth telling and the people I get to collaborate with. For the privilege of doing something I love. A woman in line behind Keanu cleared her throat impatiently, but Alex barely noticed, captivated despite himself by this perspective that ran counter to everything he believed. Besides, Keanu continued, lowering his voice slightly, wealth without purpose is just numbers on a screen. It doesn't warm you at night or bring meaning to your days. I've been fortunate in my career, but that good fortune feels emptiest when it's only serving me. Alex felt an uncomfortable sensation in his chest, something like the beginning of doubt in beliefs he'd held unquestioned for years. So all these donations, the simple lifestyle, it's what, some kind of philosophy? Keanu smiled, the expression genuinely reaching his eyes. Nothing so formal. Just choices that help me sleep at night. As Alex finalized the transfer paperwork, he found himself wondering how many millions Keanu had given away over the years, and more disturbingly, why the thought made him feel strangely empty rather than indignant. The breaking point. Their interaction might have ended there, with Alex slightly chastened but largely unchanged, had fate not intervened in the form of a new client who approached Keanu as he was preparing to leave. "Mr. Reeves," the woman exclaimed, her face lighting up with recognition. "I'm sorry to bother you, but I just wanted to thank you. My son was treated at Children's Hospital Los Angeles last year, the wing you funded. The doctors there saved his life." Keanu's expression softened immediately. "I'm so glad he got the care he needed. How is he doing now?" As the woman shared her story, complete with photos of a smiling boy who had clearly been through medical challenges, Alex stood frozen behind his counter. It wasn't just the confirmation of Keanu's identity that stunned him, but the realization that the $1 million transfer he'd just processed was likely going to fund similar stories of hope. The woman eventually thanked Keanu again and left, but not before several other customers had noticed the exchange. Whispers rippled through the bank as people realized who was standing among them. Alex found himself the recipient of several disapproving glances from customers who had witnessed his earlier condescension. Heat rose to his face as he realized how transparent his behavior had been and how graciously Keanu had endured it. Unable to contain himself, Alex stepped out from behind his counter as Keanu was heading toward the exit. "Mr. Reeves," he called, his voice carrying across the now hushed bank lobby. "A moment, please." Keanu turned, eyebrows raised in mild surprise. Alex approached him, conscious of the many eyes upon them. For perhaps the first time in his professional life, he felt genuinely ashamed. "I owe you an apology," he said, the words sticking in his throat. "My behavior was inappropriate and disrespectful. I judged you based on appearances, and I was wrong." For a moment, Keanu said nothing, his expression unreadable. The silence stretched until Alex was certain he would simply walk away, a reaction Alex knew he would deserve. Instead, Keanu extended his hand. "Thank you for being honest. That takes courage." Alex shook the offered hand, feeling strangely humbled by the simple gesture of respect. "I don't understand," he admitted. "You could have called my manager, had me fired. Why didn't you?" Keanu considered this, then asked, "Would that have helped either of us?" "It would have been justified," Alex insisted. "Maybe," Keanu acknowledged, "but justice and growth rarely come from the same place." He glanced at his watch. "I should go. I hope the rest of your day goes well, Alex." As Keanu turned to leave, Alex blurted out the question that had been gnawing at him since their first exchange. "How do you do it? Stay so grounded when you could have anything you want?" Keanu paused at the door, sunlight streaming in behind him. "That's the thing about anything you want," he said. "It's different from everything you need. Figure out the difference, and the rest gets easier." With a small nod of farewell, he stepped outside. Through the glass doors, Alex watched as Keanu put on his helmet, mounted his motorcycle, and merged into the flow of traffic, just another person making his way through the city. Reflection and change. The rest of Alex's shift passed in a blur. He processed transactions mechanically, his mind replaying the encounters with Keanu and questioning assumptions he'd held for years. During his lunch break, instead of dining at the exclusive restaurant across the street as he usually did, Alex sat on a bench in the small park adjacent to the bank. He watched people passing by, the homeless man who always sat near the fountain, the construction workers eating sandwiches in the shade, the mothers with strollers navigating the walking paths. For the first time, he saw them as individuals rather than merely as economic categories. He thought about Keanu's words about wealth without purpose being just numbers on a screen, and felt a hollowness in his designer-clad chest. That evening, instead of driving directly to his expensive but sparsely furnished apartment, Alex made an impulsive detour. He parked outside Children's Hospital Los Angeles and walked into the lobby where a plaque discreetly acknowledged the donors who had made the new wing possible. Keanu's name was there, alongside many others. A nurse noticed him standing there. "Can I help you find something?" she asked. Alex shook his head. "No, I was just curious about volunteer opportunities. Who would I speak with about that?" The question surprised even him, but as the words left his mouth, he realized he meant them. The nurse smiled. "We always need volunteers. Let me get you some information." As Alex waited, he reflected on the strange turn his day had taken. He'd begun the morning believing he understood the value of money, only to be shown a different kind of wealth by a man he'd mistakenly dismissed. Epilogue. 6 months later, the spring sunshine warmed the outdoor patio of a small cafe in Silver Lake. Alex sat at a corner table, his designer suit replaced by jeans and a simple button-down shirt. Across from him sat his younger sister, visiting from their hometown. "I still can't believe you're doing this," she said, gesturing to the brochures spread between them, information about financial literacy programs for underprivileged teenagers. "When did my status-obsessed brother become a community volunteer?" Alex smiled, tracing the logo on one of the brochures with his finger. "Let's just say I got some unexpected perspective." His phone chimed with a notification. It was from the Children's Hospital volunteer coordinator, confirming his weekend shift. Next to it was a reminder about the meeting with his new financial advisor. He was restructuring his investments to build a more modest but sustainable lifestyle while increasing his charitable giving. "You know what's weird?" he said to his sister. "I used to think success meant making sure everyone knew how important you were. Now I'm thinking maybe it's about making sure the important things get done, whether anyone knows it was you or not." His sister studied him with newfound respect. "Whatever happened, I like this version of you better." Alex laughed. "Me too." As they gathered their things to leave, a motorcycle passed by the cafe. The rider was helmeted, his face obscured, but something in the posture reminded Alex of a certain actor. Whether it was actually Keanu Reeves or not didn't matter. The lesson had already been learned. As Alex held the door for his sister, he found himself thinking about the balance in his own accounts. The numbers were smaller these days, but somehow he felt richer than he ever had before.